From Start to Hire, a workshop on how to create your resume, presented by Chaffey College Career Center. What exactly is a resume and why do I need one? A resume is your marketing tool and is your first meeting between you and the employer. The resume shows the unique value you bring to the specific job you are applying for. A resume also makes your qualifications for the job very clear by tailoring the resume specifically to the job description. Employers typically only review a resume for 6 to 8 seconds before making a judgment on whether they should read further. Will your resume pass the 6 to 8 second test? We're going to have you practice looking at 2 samples for 6 seconds to learn how employers will review your resume. This will ultimately help you decide how to write your resume. Here we go. The employer is looking to fill a director of nursing position. The qualifications for the position include a master's degree in nursing, 6 years experience in the nursing field, held a nurse manager position, billing and collections experience, and affiliation with nursing associations. Here's the resume, and go. What do you think? Did Sarah meet our requirements? Remember, the qualifications include a master's degree in nursing, 6 years experience in the nursing field, held a nurse manager position, billing and collections experience, and affiliation with nursing associations. The qualifications were hard to read, right? The way the resume was formatted, it was difficult to find if Sarah met the qualifications. Let's try again with Sam. Again, here are the qualifications. A master's degree in nursing, 6 years experience in the nursing field, held a nurse manager position, billing and collections experience, affiliation with nursing associations. Here is the resume, and go. What do you think? Were you able to read Sam's resume more clearly and identify that he did meet the qualifications? In the following slides, we will be helping you to set up your resume to clearly identify your qualifications. What do you think this image represents? This image actually represents an example of where a recruiter's eyes go when reading a resume. As you can see, the resume on the left is not read thoroughly, but the resume on the right is read all the way through, and you are able to see by the heat pattern where the employer spent the majority of the time reading. So, how do you get an employer to do this with your current resume? Let's explore further on how to format your resume. First, we're going to look at types of resumes in order to decide how you should set up your resume. If you need help deciding which format is best for you and the position you're applying for, please visit the Career Center for assistance. The first type of resume is called chronological. This is the most common type of resume and is typically preferred by employers. A chronological resume lists your job experience with the most recent work experience first. This type of resume is appropriate for job seekers who have practical work experience with long periods of employment. To draft this type of resume, you should utilize the job description to craft bullet points. Here is an example of a chronological resume. The next type of resume is called a functional resume. Functional resumes focus on skills and accomplishments and does not use dates. This type of resume is best for people who do not have a lot of work experience or no experience. Functional resumes emphasize what you can do, your transferable skills, such as technical or customer service skills, and matches those skills to the position for which you are applying for. Here's an example of a functional resume. The last example is called a combination resume. Combination styles blend the functional format with the chronological format. A combination resume highlights accomplishments and dates and allows more flexibility to pull out some key skill sets while keeping a detailed list of employment history. Key skill sets should be selected based on the job description. Here is an example of a combination style resume. So, how do you actually start writing? Besides selecting what style, one of the first things you need to do is to decide what headers you will have on your resume. Here is an example of the different sections that are commonly on a resume and the different terms you can use. We would suggest starting with these headers: professional profile, areas of strength for your transferable skills area, professional experience, education, and if these areas apply to you, honors and awards, and community involvement. If you are not sure what term to use for each section, please feel free to see us in the Career Center to receive additional assistance. Next, start writing your resume by brainstorming your previous work, education, and other activity experiences. Make a list of your employment history and start thinking about your main tasks and how they relate to the position you are applying for. Do the same thing with your education and any other activities that you are involved in. This brainstorming will help you write your resume. We will now go into more detail about each section and make some suggestions on how to structure that section. Let's review some of the basics. Make sure to pick a font that is clean and easy to read. You should only use a font between 10 to 12 point font size. Your structure throughout the resume should also be consistent. For example, do not use different types of fonts or bullet points. Also, try to limit your resume to 1 page. 2 pages are appropriate if you have over 10 years experience, and if you do go on to a second page, you need to fill the entire second page. Having trouble getting down to 1 page? Bring an electronic version of your resume to the Career Center and we will help you adjust the resume. When printing your resume, be sure to only print with black ink and on resume paper. When starting your resume electronically, do not use a template. Just start typing in Microsoft Word or the other software you use, and then create your own formatting as you go. One of the first things you will work on is your header for the resume. This is your name and contact information. Be sure to include your name, address, phone number, and email. Your email should be professional. Be sure to use a font that is easy to read. Look at the good and bad examples to get a better idea of how to format this section. Next, start working on your profile. Here, we have provided you with examples of what you can term this area, as well as good and bad examples for your profile. Your profile section should address who you are as a professional and what makes you special. Remember to review the job description to get an idea of the required knowledge, skills, and abilities, and pick some of those that you think you can speak to. Focus on your strengths. Let's now look at the skills area of a resume. In this section, you will select your top transferable skills. Be sure to select skills that are relevant to the position you are applying for, and focus on skills that are your strengths. Remember, employers will ask you to explain why you are flexible or what your specific organizational skills are. So be sure to select skills that you are prepared to talk about. We have been talking a lot about how to match a resume to a job description. This is very important because you need to prove to employers on paper that you have what they are looking for. Here is an example of how you can match the resume to the job. Let's look at the minimum qualifications for a position. They are excellent telephone etiquette and efficiency in handling customer problems, proficient in Microsoft Suite, ability to think quickly and problem solve, and accurate data entry. Now let's look at Anita Jobs' resume. In her professional profile section, do you see the bullet point about all of the Microsoft systems she is proficient in? This speaks to the second qualification listed. How about in her related experience section? Do you see the bullet point that says promptly respond to 15 to 50 telephone calls and email questions per hour presented by faculty, staff, and students? This statement responds to the bullet point on telephone efficiency. As you continue to write your resume, be sure to consult the job description frequently to ensure you are addressing the qualifications. Let's move on to the work experience area. Before we talk about the structure of this area, we would like to address the proper way to write bullet points. Your work experience bullet points should be structured by starting with an action verb, then list the job, and finally end with the result or why. For example, a good bullet point would be managed safety regulations according to OSHA standards. Or, on the next slide, we have the example of courteously and respectfully assist patients and their families during hospital stay, leading to 45% increase in patient recovery and 15% decrease in relapse. The purpose of the structure provides evidence to the employer that you can produce results on the job. Let's also now look at the structure for work experience. For each position you have previously held, be sure to include the exact position title or positions you have held, the name of the employer, the city and state of the employer, and then the month and year you started and the month and year you finished the position, or if you are still currently employed. The next area is for your education. Note, if the position requires that you have a specific degree earned, it is a good idea to list your education as one of the first sections on your resume. What should you include in the education section? Where you are currently attending school or where you attended. Provide the name of the degree or certificate you have attained or plan to complete. When is your expected graduation date, or when did you graduate? You only need to provide the month and year. Provide your GPA if above a 3.5. You can also include a list of relevant coursework or projects if the skills you learned or used are relevant to that position. Note, you only need to provide high school information if it is within the last 2 years. Here are 2 examples for you to review on how the education area should be structured. Do you see the differences between the good and bad example? The good example tells the employer that the student will be graduating with an associate's degree and that her GPA is a 3.7. The next two sections we will cover may not be relevant to you. If you have awards or extracurricular activities that you think are important, then you may want to include the next two sections on your resume. We will cover them quickly. For awards and honors, it is good to include athletic, academic, or community awards, any scholarships you have received, or any other accomplishments. Be sure to be as detailed as possible in this section. For example, in the bad example provided, just listing honors list is not enough information. This does not show the employer where you received this honor and when. If you're going to include an extracurricular activity section, it would be a good idea to include clubs you have joined, events, initiatives you started or participated in, leadership positions, any involvement with sports, art, music, volunteer activities. Here are some examples for your review. Now let's review. When creating a resume, you should not list everything you have done in previous positions. Use abbreviations and acronyms. Write long lists or boring sentences. Use pronouns such as I, me, my, our, we. Use fancy fonts or layouts. Lie or exaggerate. Include references on your resume. You should always include a separate references sheet. On a resume, you should target your qualifications for a specific job and list relevant experience only. Remember, be sure to match your experience to the job description. Ensure there are no errors on your resume. Have a pleasing layout for your resume. Have a consistent structure throughout. Save your resume under your name, title, and date, and as a PDF for sending or uploading as an electronic file. Also, have at least 3 people read it. It is a good idea to have your resume read by an industry-specific professional. So, for example, a professor in your major or related discipline can provide helpful insight into what employers could be looking for in that specific industry. In summary, convince the employer that you are worth an interview. Use the correct resume format, chronological, functional, or combination, to highlight your skills, abilities, and work history. A good resume has balance, information, and presentation. Update your resume for each employer based on the job description. Remember, for great bullet points, use the equation action verb first, then explain the job duty, and then provide the result or why. And proofread, proofread, proofread. Those are the basics on writing a resume. If you need additional help, please visit us in the Career Center. You can pick up any of our handouts and meet with a success guide or counselor to go over your resume. We suggest bringing your resume with you in electronic form and then sitting down with a career professional to review and adjust your resume as needed. Remember, it is important to create a resume that is specific to each position, so be sure to bring in the job description with you as well. Thank you for watching our video on writing resumes, and we look forward to seeing you in the Career Center.